Some people call it the most paranormal place on Earth.
That's quite a statement, isn't it? Sets stage immediately.
It really does. It hints at something way beyond the ordinary, and that's exactly where we're going today. We're diving deep into Skinwalker Ranch. It's this 500-acre piece of land out in northeastern Utah.
And what makes this place stand out, I think, is the sheer amount of scrutiny it's faced. We're not just talking about old campfire stories here. There's a real documented history. Serious scientific effort went into trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah, and this whole chapter really kicks off with, well, what seemed like a dream. Terry and Gwen Sherman, they bought the ranch back in 1994. They just wanted the place to raise cattle, the classic rural life.
Right. Space, privacy. But the price, it was incredibly low, maybe too low.
Looking back, maybe that was the first clue. Because the place itself seemed, well, almost like it was warning them.
Definitely. The setup inside the house was just odd. Think about getting the keys to your new place and finding deadbolts on every single window.
Okay, that's unusual.
And then you notice, wait, the interior doors have locks too? On both sides.
All sides, why?
Exactly. And heavy chains bolted into the ground outside. It paints this picture of someone desperately trying to keep something out, or maybe keep something in, a real sense of lockdown.
Wow. Okay, so right from the start, it's unsettling. But their first day there, that sounds like where things really took a turn.
It was brutal. They're literally just unpacking, trying to settle in, and this creature comes out of the woods. Looked like a wolf, apparently, but huge. Way bigger than normal, maybe 6 feet long.
6 feet. That's massive for a wolf.
Huge. And it acted strangely calm at first. Terry's dad actually walked up and touched it.
He touched it.
Yeah, seemed tame. But that didn't last. Suddenly it just attacked one of their calves. Pure violence.
Oh, man. So Terry reacts, obviously.
Uh-huh.
Tries to protect his livestock.
Right. Grabs a handgun, shoots it point blank.
No.
Nothing. No effect. Then he grabs an axe handle, hits it hard. Still nothing. It just shrugged it off.
Okay, that's not a normal animal.
Yep.
Not even close.
Not at all. And then, just as suddenly as it attacked, it stalks. Turns around, starts trotting back towards the woods. Completely calm again.
So Terry gets a better weapon.
Yeah. He grabs a high-powered rifle this time, takes aim, fires. Still no reaction. The thing just keeps walking.
And they followed it.
They did. The ground was muddy. Tracks were clear as day. They followed the tracks, and then they just stop.
Yeah.
Mid-stride, almost.
Stop.
Like vanished.
Exactly. Like it just ceased to exist. In mud. You can't fake that. A creature that size leaves tracks.
Impossible.
And then there was the smell. They said this thick, almost chemical smell hung in the air afterwards. Really foul. And that smell becomes kind of a calling card for the weirdness there.
So that's day one. Just,
Yeah.
Wow. What happens next? Did things calm down?
Not really. It shifted maybe. Became more insidious almost. Little things started happening inside the house.
Like what?
Like Gwen would unpack groceries, put everything away, turn around, and find it all back in the bags on the counter minutes later.
No. Yeah. Or a towel would just move from one room to another completely on its own. Little things you might almost dismiss, but together.
It messes with your head, makes you question your sanity, creates this constant low-level dread.
Exactly. It erodes that sense of control, that feeling of safety in your own home. And then there were bigger things, too. Terry had this heavy post digger, like 70 pounds.
Okay.
It vanished. They found it later, balanced way up high, maybe 70 feet up in a cottonwood tree.
Oh, that's impossible.
Completely. No explanation, just there. It escalates things from just weird to actively baffling and, frankly, a bit threatening.
And it wasn't just physical objects, right?
Wait.
There were lights, too.
Oh, yeah. At night, they'd see headlights appear at the edge of the property. But no engine noise, nothing, just silent lights.
Floating lights.
Floating, drifting across the fields. If they tried to approach, the lights would just blink out, vanish. Definitely not normal vehicles. There was an intelligence to it, almost.
And the silence you mentioned. That makes it even creepier.
It does. Then the animals started disappearing. Not just attacked, but gone.
Gone how?
They'd find tracks, cattle tracks usually, leading off into the woods. And just like with the wolf, the tracks would abruptly end. No blood, no signs of a struggle, nothing, just gone.
Like they were just lifted away.
That's what it felt like, completely unnatural. This wasn't predators acting normally.
This is getting really dark. But then they actually started seeing things, figures.
Yes, that's when the fear really ramped up. They started seeing tall, dark figures, featureless, just silhouettes moving around the property at night, peering into the windows. They even reported hearing voices, speaking some language they couldn't recognize.
Okay, that crosses the line. That's direct intimidation. Your home is supposed to be safe.
Exactly. It became a place of constant fear. Sleep became impossible. The kids' grades started dropping. Gwen ended up losing her job because of the stress and lack of sleep. The whole family was suffering.
You can only imagine. Terry started patrolling.
Yeah, walking the property at night with a rifle, just desperate to feel like he had some control, some way to protect his family. But what can you do against, well, whatever this was?
And then the aerial stuff got even weirder. Not just lights, but a craft.
A definite shape. Terry describes seeing this silent, sort of stealth bomber-looking thing hovering above the trees.
Silent, like the lights.
Totally silent. And it would scan the ground with these colored beams of light, red, blue, white.
Scanning for what?
Who knows? But the part that really freaked Terry out was the feeling that it knew exactly where he was, even when he was hiding. That sense of being watched, targeted by something completely unknown.
That's terrifying. Like you're just specimens under observation.
Yeah. And things got even worse as winter set in. The cattle mutilations, they became more frequent, and the details are just grisly.
How so?
They'd find cows dead, but it wasn't like a normal predator attack. They described these perfect surgical cuts.
Surgery.
Like with a laser or something incredibly sharp. And no blood anywhere. Organs precisely removed.
No blood. That's a common theme in these kinds of reports, isn't it?
It is very bizarre. And sometimes the bodies would disappear only to reappear days later in a completely different spot on the ranch.
What? Why? It's like a deliberate display, messing with them.
It felt that way. And then came the orbs. Small, glowing blue orbs.
Blue orbs, what do they do?
They seemed to induce this overwhelming sense of dread. Pure panic. People would get racing hearts, shaking hands, just sheer terror in their presence.
Just by being near them?
Apparently. And the Shermans had 3 dogs. They saw one of these blue orbs, chased it into the trees.
That's honor.
Terry went looking for them the next morning. All he found were 3 distinct circles of burnt ground, like ash. The dogs were just vaporized.
Vaporized. Oh my God, I have no words. That must have been the breaking point.
It seems like it was. Terry finally decided he had to go public, talk to the press, and they put the ranch up for sale. They just couldn't take it anymore. Their dream had turned into an absolute nightmare.
Understandable. So who buys a place with that kind of reputation?
Well, someone uniquely suited, perhaps. Robert Bigelow. A billionaire known for being, let's say, very interested in the paranormal and UFOs.
Ah, okay. So he knew what he was getting into.
He bought it specifically to study it. This wasn't just buying land, it was acquiring a laboratory, basically. He wanted to apply real science to this mystery.
How did he approach that?
He set up NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science, pulled together a team of actual scientists, PhDs, researchers. Importantly, he included skeptics, too.
Smart. To keep it grounded.
Right. Their first move was to try and rule out everything conventional. They tested the soil, the air, the water. They did psychological evaluations on the Shermans. They set up sensors, cameras, surveillance everywhere. A full scientific assault.
And did the activity continue with scientists watching?
Interestingly, things went quiet for a bit right after NIDS arrived. It was almost like the ranch knew it was being watched and decided to lay low, like it was waiting.
That's creepy in itself. Did it start up again?
Oh, yeah. Big time. There was this incident with a calf they'd tagged for tracking. It was in a secure pen.
Okay.
It vanished in broad daylight. They searched and found it just 40 minutes later nearby, but only its legs and head were left.
What?
The rest of the body was gone, and the ear tag they'd put on, it had been removed with this incredibly clean, precise cut. The vet they had on site was completely stumped.
Unbelievable. So the mutilations continued, even with NIDS there.
They did, and other things. There was this one night, the dogs they had stationed at 4 different observation posts around the property, they all went nuts at the exact same time.
Synchronize.
Perfectly synchronized, barking like crazy at one spot in the trees. Then, just as suddenly, they all went silent, cowering, terrified, all staring at the same point.
What did the researchers see?
They saw something, a large, upright, sort of wolf-like creature, but it was perched in a tree maybe 20 feet off the ground, and it had glowing red eyes.
In a tree, like the Cheshire Cat, but terrifying.
Basically. Terry, who was there, shot at it. It vanished instantly. Poof. And then that smell came back. That metallic, rotting, chemical smell.
The same smell from the first wolf encounter. It's like these things are connected.
It really seems that way. And then there was the incident with the bulls. 4 prize bulls.
Okay, what happened to them?
They disappeared from their locked pen. Just gone. The team searched everywhere. They eventually found them crammed inside this old, sealed trailer on the property.
Sealed? How?
It hadn't been opened in years. The door was wired shut. Cobwebs were still intact inside the doorway. There was physically no way those huge bulls could have gotten in there without disturbing anything.
Teleportation. I mean, what else could it be?
It defies explanation. And the bulls themselves, they were just standing there totally catatonic, like they were drugged or traumatized. Later, they found metal bars in the empty bullpen that had somehow become magnetized.
Magnetized. This place just throws curveball after curveball.
It really does. Even the researchers experienced weird stuff directly. Compasses going crazy, spinning wildly when that foul smell returned, then suddenly snapping back to normal. Suggests some kind of electromagnetic field fluctuation.
Measurable physical effects. That's important.
It is, but maybe the most direct and frankly terrifying encounter for the NIDS team happened in 1997. They saw one of those glowing orbs again, an orange one this time, near the main house.
Okay.
One scientist was using infrared goggles. He looked at the orb and he claimed he could see inside it, like a tunnel or an opening.
Inside the light.
Yeah, and then he said he saw this black, featureless humanoid shape kind of slither out of the orb.
Slithers out. Oh, that's nightmare fuel.
Absolutely. He said this creature then ran off towards them before veering away and disappearing into the mountains.
A humanoid figure coming out of an orb. That's directly challenging our reality.
It really is. But after that intense period, things started to quiet down again around 1998.
So the activity waxes and wanes.
It seems to. NIDS stayed for several more years gathering data, but the really high-intensity events became less frequent. They finally wrapped up their investigation and left in 2004. Almost a decade of work.
And what was their conclusion after all that time, all that science?
That's the frustrating part. They had amassed so much data. Over 200 eyewitness accounts, physical evidence like the mutilations, the infrared footage, magnetic readings, hours and hours of data. But no definitive proof of what it was.
Nothing concrete.
Nothing they could pin down. Their kind of unofficial conclusion was, whatever it is, it's always one step ahead of us.
Meaning it's intelligent and evasive.
That was the feeling, that the phenomenon itself decided when and how it would appear, and it deliberately avoided capture or definitive analysis. It was playing a game, almost.
So NIDS leaves, Bigelow sells the ranch. Does the story end there?
Not quite. In 2016, a new owner, Brandon Fugel, bought it. And unlike Bigelow, Fugel eventually opened the ranch up to cameras for that TV show, The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
Right, I've heard of that. Did bringing cameras in change anything?
Apparently, yes. With the new owner and the increased activity and scrutiny from the show, the strange events reportedly started happening again.
Seriously? Like what?
Reports of radiation spikes, strange flying objects caught on camera, those blue orbs showing up again. It seems like the place responds to attention.
That's a chilling thought. And it affects the people there now, too.
It seems so. There are reports from the current investigators of sudden, weird illnesses, strange marks appearing on their bodies, really terrifying nightmares. There was even a serious medical emergency on site during filming recently.
Wow. So the phenomenon, whatever it is still active.
Yeah.
And still potentially dangerous.
It appears that way,
Yeah.
which of course leads to endless speculation. What is going on there?
Right. What are the main theories?
They're all over the map. Some say it's a portal, a gateway to another dimension. There's the connection to local Native American legends, Navajo beliefs about skinwalkers, malevolent witches who can shapeshift. Then you have theories about secret government experiments gone wrong. Maybe some kind of advanced tech being tested. UFOs are obviously a big one. Interdimensional beings, perhaps. Or maybe the land itself is somehow sentient, alive, capable of changing its form.
So many possibilities, all of them pretty out there.
And that's the core of it, isn't it? Despite all the data, all the accounts, nothing is ever proven. It always hints, it suggests, it shows glimpses, but it never gives a clear answer. It stays a mystery.
And it seems like the place leaves a mark on people. Not just scary memories, but something deeper.
That's one of the most disturbing threads. People report leaving the ranch and still experiencing things. Nightmares, hallucinations, intense paranoia. Like a piece of the ranch or its influence follows them home. Some feel they've been permanently changed by it.
It doesn't just scare you, it changes you. That's profoundly unsettling.
It really is. And thinking about that theme of control, it comes up again and again. The Shermans felt totally powerless against that first wolf.
Really, nothing they did stopped it.
And NIDS, with all of their science, they couldn't control the phenomenon either. It showed up when it wanted. It dictated the terms. This constant lack of control, facing something you can't predict or influence, that must breed incredible fear and uncertainty.
Yeah, that helplessness seems key. Even those weird deadbolts that Sherman's found, it's like a symbol of past failures to control whatever's there. Miswarnings, maybe?
Perhaps. It really highlights how vulnerable we feel when confronted by something truly fundamentally unknown and potentially intelligent.
So next time you see strange lights in the sky, don't look too long, because Skinwalker Ranch is still there, and the land never forgets.
Okay, let's chew on that a bit. What aspect of all this Skinwalker Ranch stuff do you find the most unsettling? Personally, I think it's the way it seems to follow people.
For me, it might be the combination of the high strangeness, like the bulls in the trailer, and the fact that serious scientists couldn't crack it. That feeling of hitting an absolute wall against the unknown. What about you listening? What hits you the hardest?
And think about NIDs. If you were on that team, knowing what they knew then, what would you have done next? Where do you even go when your methods seem to be anticipated?
Good question. Maybe try. Less direct observation. More passive, long-term monitoring. Or maybe something completely unconventional. It's hard to say.
Final thought then. Do you believe there are places like this, places on Earth that just defy our current science? And if so, why? What could be the reason behind it all?
Lots to think about there. If this story haunted you, and frankly, how could it not, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.